to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the Preble Town Board meeting of April 11th, 2022. We're going to start off with Don Fisher, who's got 2 items to bring up to the board.
Thanks, everybody. The first item is we've been approached to provide a letter of support for a grant request being submitted by Portland County Soil and Water Conservation District. And the grant request is to the National Trail Service, a National Trail Service organization that is giving out grants for improving trailways. And so the application is to improve the trails in Dwyer Memorial Park. We put together a couple of letters of support from other organizations that are around the lake, the Little York Lake Preservation Society, COFOCLA, which is the Regional Lake Association, and the town of Preble. We'd like to get these letters in. It doesn't obligate the town to do anything. It's just goodness for our citizens, so our residents. So unless you have any, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on it.
Is there any more talk, Don, about a river trail
Well, so
that will connect to Dwyer Park?
that's a whole nother subject, which is the LWRP thing that it has just been delayed unceasingly. I am struggling to get them to even respond other than say, yeah, we know we're supposed to be working on this, but we'll get back to you soon. So that's the local waterfront revitalization program that TOMA is leading that study, the revamp or the revision of that study. And so that would be a project that would probably fall into that. And there may be monies from other organizations to fund that and grants to be written and so forth. But this would have nothing to do with that. This would be just maintaining the trails within Dwyer Park and improving them, making sure that they're safe to hike on.
So I need resolution from the board for me to sign this letter of recommendation for Don to get a grant for the town for the park.
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded it?
Carried. Jim Harris, second.
Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, guys.
Okay.
And Jim also asked me to mention, remind you that we have the spring newsletter coming up. I'm working on content, so if anybody has any ideas for articles, feel free to either send them off to Jim or to me. I'm at donpreble@fisherspoint.com, and my email address is in the newsletter itself. So if you get an old copy, you can catch up on that. Okay?
And anybody can write an article if you have a special
Absolutely.
interest about anything.
Absolutely.
You can certainly put together something, and
Yeah.
Don and I will edit it and structure it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
even if you have an idea and don't feel like writing the whole thing yourself, if you can come up with the ideas and some bullet points, then we can flesh it out from there. So you don't have to write the whole thing. I'm still looking for. So I'm trying to reach out to Nets to do a company profile on them, and they haven't been particularly responsive on that. So I'm still looking for somebody to profile. They may respond yet, and I may still get them. But if there's a company in town that you think we have to feature, I'm happy to do that too.
okay. Thanks. Any questions for Don? Okay. Thanks a lot, Don.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Don.
That was quick. It was. Wait. Aren't you staying? Just asking. All right. See you later.
Okay. Any corrections, additions, or deletions to the regular March meeting minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Harry? Jen?
The dog control did 120 traveled 120 miles for the town in March. The Justice Department collected $15,340 in fines in March.
Thanks, Jen. Jeff, the highway report?
I'll have you that.
Met with CMO and FEMA again, virtually on the 17th and again on, I think we came up for 5 hours, Pat did. We flushed out a lot of the how-tos and the where-tos, so it's moving along, but it seems like it's a snail's pace. I've rented a rotary boom mower for a couple of weeks. We're getting the brush knocked back before the leaves come out, so hopefully won't be as noticeable. And the Preble Town cleanup is coming up the end of the month, the April 29th and 30th. And so I'm gonna talk to the fire department, see about putting it on the sign over on the corner. And the other thing is a few weeks ago, the roof on the old highway garage during that windstorm we had blew off. I know Jim came up and took a look at it. Sorry I missed you. So kind of start the process where we're gonna go with that building. I don't know if it's something that anybody wants to go up and take a look at it, walk through it, and at least get a feel for it, or just where you want to go from there. But something that we need to start moving on if it's going to be, having headaches like that.
So the rest of the board has Contento's quote on demolition.
I emailed it to everybody.
Right, yeah, so everybody's got that, so.
Do we own the building? Do we own the building?
Mhm.
So we do have a clear title for it.
Yes.
Yeah, we worked on that years ago.
Mhm.
Clear title.
We had no title. And then we actually applied title. We got an order saying we're good ownership.
So,
So if we determine we want to tear it down, then the board would, we would vote on it as a resolution, and then Rick Fritz would, I talked with him somewhat, and then he would issue a demolition permit
okay.
for that.
Mhm.
So as far as I know, that's what we could do, right? We could go ahead with it
We could.
if we want
Yeah.
to.
Mhm.
Why don't you sell it as
Why don't you
is?
sell
Pardon?
Why don't you sell it as is?
It's not,
Let whoever
Rick
buys
said
it,
it's
let them
not-
decide it.
it's not habitable to sell, and the road is going to, right,
Well, and that's the biggest thing, is the way that property's cut up right now. You could have somebody go right down through to by the telephone pole, block that hole where we used to park up through there on that pie shape. And it's what they call an uncontrolled intersection. And anybody that turns to go up there, you'll lose the opportunity to correct that intersection and do it the right way, as far as, squaring things up and having it available. So,
I'd still say sell it, and then whoever buys it, it'd be their responsibility, not the town's to tear it down. If it needs tearing down, if it needs just a new roof, let them put the roof on.
it needs much more than a new roof, talking with.
What I'm
Rick
getting
that
at,
did
let
the
them take the
inspection.
responsibility to do it. Why should the town pay to have it taken down? Then what are you gonna do with it?
Well, is it a liability?
the biggest question, and the building's secondary to me, it's how are you gonna straighten that intersection out to make it,
They would come back
To
to
me-
the county on that corner there.
it's our road, the intersection is.
Well,
So-
go straight.
That's the headache. If somebody did that, you can't make any truck, tractor, even a straight job's not gonna make that curve. If somebody bought that property the way it is, they could put a fence right up through there, right to the corner.
So be it.
So the code, it may not pass code to be able to sell it. It may be a code
Rick told
consideration.
me that he considered it an unsafe building. The only reason that he didn't go further than that was once it's put into, there's categories, and I probably should have written them down. But once it gets into the last category, basically, you board it up and you can't go near it, which is an expense. So That's why I think we need to have this discussion and flush this all out, however you want to do it, but there's multi points to this whole thing. It's not, there's the building, there's what do we do with the road? You know, if you had somebody coming out there making a tractor trailer, making that corner, I don't know, the 48 or 53 footer, you're gonna make that corner. Without taking out a
On
telephone
the highway
pole.
garage.
So is it a questioning some input from the road, the county?
I had, Dave Orr was up here 2020, first year of COVID, and we looked at it. And his suggestion is, it basically goes right across in front of the building. You have an actually turning lane where you have an island that isn't a road. And then right where the old loading dock was, you come across there and square up the highest traffic road, which is, some days it's not, but mostly it's Tisco Valley Road is the road that you try to square up to. And so that you can literally up and down the road and sign it properly. Because that's the other catch. You can't sign that intersection. It's kind of a free for all. So that's, once that goes away, that point goes away, then it could get pricey as far as getting it back and getting, putting the road in the way it should be done. So
How many people make a turn to go up Tisco Valley roads?
spending 18 years sitting there, you'd be surprised how many, and it's not
I don't
just,
think there's that
it's not
many.
cars,
They
it's
make-
trucks.
How many really to go around there? Because
I
a
thought-
truck can go around there. I could drive right around there with no going up there. I think you're pushing it too far. I don't think it's that
I'm
bad.
just saying, I'm putting it out there. The board can do whatever they want. I'm gonna tell you that it's an uncontrolled intersection, and it's a liability for the town. And if we got an opportunity to fix it, then we should. If you don't want it, that's up to the board, but it's a liability as far as I'm concerned.
You've got a stop sign there and it's supposed to stop.
Common sign.
Well, certainly you can't ignore the potential liability. If we got a building falling down, that's number one. And I'm not familiar enough with the intersection to comment on that, but and there's not a lot of land there anyway, is there?
I know what, it's 0.1 something.
21?
It's pie shaped, so technically,
So like a couple tenths of an acre?
we take the right of way into it, and where we used to park at the old shop, most of that was on the town's road right of way. You go up to the county road side into where we used to put the gravel there. A lot of that's on the 3-rod right of way. There's only a very little sliver in front of it that technically isn't in a right of way.
Is it worthwhile to have someone give you an opinion as to what it might be worth?
Get somebody to buy it, let them worry about it.
We could contact the realtor or have it appraised, but
It's not that
We could get an
Because
an estimate on
so-
what it, instead of an appraisal, just get an estimate from a realtor.
Or just, if it can be sold, if it's a liability to us, we want to either sell it or tear it down.
Mm-hmm.
And if it can be sold and inhabited, that's what, I don't know. If it can be.
To address the intersection concerns, would that leave enough land to sell or not?
Way Dave had it laid out 2 years ago, it'd be within about 15 feet of the building, right down in front of it. So,
Why you gotta have that big of a turn, go right by the building?
If we had anyone look at the building to see if it's salvageable, or that might be part of the appraisal, but it hasn't been maintained in years now, right?
put that in front of it. About 6 years ago, Kevin and I went up and put a patch on the roof. Probably about 19 years ago, Goddard put the section that blew off on it.
So used for cold storage, do we use it for cold storage now?
Yeah, a couple things in it.
Nothing that amounts to-
hours.
I mean, it sounds like a surplus property, certainly.
A property that has run its life and is now basically in scrap condition. If somebody were to buy it, I don't know what they would offer for it. And would it be worth
So
it?
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If you had someone giving an opinion of what it's worth, you might help you make your decision on what to do.
Okay, does
You got
anybody,
Public safety issue perhaps.
Yeah.
too.
why don't we, know a realtor who would be competent in doing this?
I could, find one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's see, they could, it'll cost us money, probably. Yeah, yeah, I'll, I'll find,
Okay.
see if I can get one that can appraise it for us.
It's some climbs in the commercial
Yeah, yeah, that's
side
what I
of
was
the
thinking.
business. Or
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna hire somebody like, Zach is he's a licensed appraiser. He doesn't own a lot of residential appraisals in the back, so just two people that come to mind.
Right, yeah.
yeah, we should probably, know what we're dealing with as far as how much would we likely get for something like that. Yeah, right.
Mhm. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm thinking of.
All right, so
Steve,
you want to pick that up and
Yeah,
then
I'll
we'll
pick
come
that
back
up.
next month?
Yeah.
And talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Okay. Let's see, where are we here? Recreation, Hank, you have anything for us?
Not really right now.
Okay.
Got a big dinner coming up down at the pavilion there.
Oh, okay. Okay. You haven't started cutting grass yet either, right?
What's that?
You haven't started cutting grass yet.
No,
No.
I can't wait. Really, I will.
County legislature,
Yes,
Kevin, you're up.
yes. Well, as you know, county legislators go, I pushed the button for two-sided copies. I got one. So just wanted to give you some of this little tidbit of information, which you'll say, "Oh no, oh my God." So I wasn't here last month. I wasn't here because I went to the New York State Association of Counties and got an education. So read this one. This one deals with your Medicaid.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And really, the big one is take a look at the top where it says problem. So the big problem is that they are 4 years behind in paying Medicaid reimbursements to the counties. And people ask us, they say, well, you know, how come Cortland County doesn't ever reduce their property taxes, right? Well, one of the reasons why is because our budget is 9.1 million for Medicaid. So New York State is one of the only states that doesn't take Medicaid and pay it themselves. What they do is they take the federal government and they end up tweaking it down to the counties to deal with. So now we're 4 years behind in getting our reimbursements. So what has to happen is we got to have money set aside to deal with Medicaid, hoping and waiting for the reimbursements. So this I thought was really interesting because I didn't know about this.
Where are they making all this money?
Well, Little Reserve, I guess, loves us. Right. So then the second sheet is dealing with the tax diversion. So what had happened through COVID is that the state decided to hold back our sales tax to help pay for, to make a pool to pay for senior homes and for hospitals that are really worn down, and it was to help build them back up. So they took about 200,000 of our dollars, and then they put them into this fund. Well, if you take a look at the fund, the state took the money, but they never divvied it up. These failing infrastructures for that. So that was a big hit. So 250 million is now pretty much up to 500 million, but it's still sitting there. It's not being used. So that's kind of like a slam to the counties for, I mean, we need that funding. So that's why the big thing is to keep our sales tax local, keep it here where it's at. So New York State Association of Counties has been lobbying to get this just axed out. What we did just find out is they did do that. So hopefully now they're trying to negotiate, what are you gonna do with that money that's in the till? Is it coming back to the counties or not? So that's what they're trying to figure out right now. The next one is the New York State. I think they're like 200 billion or whatever is their operating budget. Well, guess how much money they have in surplus that they're not even using? 18.1 billion. It's just hanging there. They're not even touching that. So I guess that might be kind of like a little slush fund. Don't know that one either. But like I said, one thing is you're with the Association of Towns. I mean, I think they're pretty good. They're good lobbyists for us. If you ever have any questions or whatever, the Association of Towns, I think is really beneficial. So there's those. And then I got my list. So this will be quick, Jim. I won't take too much of your time on this. So for years, we have always had part-time attorneys, county attorneys, always part-time. And our last county attorney had to resign. And we decided at that point was, what would be the best thing for us? Well, the best thing would be to have a full-time attorney. We got one. So we have a full-time attorney, Victoria Monty. She was with the DA's office, and now she is our full-time county attorney. And that helps in a lot of ways. As the chair, I have to sign all these contracts. But one of the things that really annoyed me was, because I was town supervisor, are these plowing contracts with the county. And I was getting these contracts signed as late as last month, when the towns signed them and gave them to us in August. To me, that's ridiculous. But that's just the way that it happens. So we're hoping that these contracts can then, start getting more, signed, reviewed, and out, in a more timely manner. So that's one. The other thing is that when I came to become chair, one of the goals was to really work with all municipalities, really be kind of like the team effort type of deal. One of the ones we're going to be working with is the city. Our landfill, right now with our landfill, we do about 8,000 to 10,000 gallons of leachate that kind of oozes out of the landfill. We pump it into trucks. We have these big lagoons. Pump them into trucks, and we drive those to the city's wastewater treatment plant to where they treat it. In return for our trip, the city charges us $568,000 a year in the fees for doing that. So then the sludge created, with wastewater treatment plants. So what do? They take the sludge, they put it in trucks, they come to the landfill, it's mixed up and it becomes kind of like cover for the landfill. Well, in our infinite wisdom, we charge them $568,000. So the mayor and I sat together and we said, it's kind of stupid. It takes more time for bookkeeping, check writing, auditing. It's ridiculous. So what we ended up doing is we dissolved it. We don't do that anymore. So one of the things that we're doing is Cortlandville, the city, the county, the village of McGraw are all putting in for a grant and to get a leachate pipeline put in. And it has to go from the landfill to McGraw because McGraw is already hooked into the system. And once we can do that, then it's more of a trickle effect going into the city. They don't have to deal with these big trucks. And these trucks it's almost 24/7 doing this. And with the overtime costs, the vehicle maintenance and purchases, and really one of the bigger ones was environmental impact. You get one of those that has an accident and you got that sludge and leachate all over the place. It'd be a mess and a liability for the county and all that. So we're working on getting that done. The other one is, anyone familiar with the Apex site in the city? No. How about if I say Brewer Tishner building, the factory? Right. So that's another one that's it's been years that it's been bad and it's a brown site. So there is contamination there. So again, we're going to be working with the city, and we're not getting rid of tipping fees. What we're doing is we're holding off on the tipping fees until it's cleaned up. They're going to put the clean material in our landfill, and then once it's sold, then we take off the top the tipping fees, but we get this thing taken care of. So those are other things that we're dealing with. The big one, oh, I forgot to tell you. So when we had the conference, every municipality gets AIM money, aid to municipalities. And that used to be the state would do that, would give it to them. I think you're probably around at what, 20,000, somewhere around there. And well, then in their infinite wisdom of saving money and trying to get all that 18.1 billion in surplus, what they would do is they took that off of our sales tax and then gave it out to the municipalities. So they took which was another stupid thing. Well, anyway, AIM funding is now paid back by the state. So now we're going to be getting more sales tax revenue. 111 Port Watson is the old Brewer Tishner main office building. It's right there on the corner. We've been working and I signed last Wednesday finally the purchase, so the county purchased it. And that's going to be the new mental health building. Right now we rent behind the Dark Horse for mental health. And now we own our own building. So that's going to get renovated, and then we're probably looking at 2 years. CCTVS has been reenacted. So that's the county, city, town, village, and schools meetings that we hold for all municipalities come to have topics, make discussions, so on. So that is up and running. And then really one of the bigger ones is being not just the legislator, but being the chair. It kind of hit me hard a little. Is that in 2021, we had 17 deaths in Cortland County because of opioid overdoses. So I met around with all these agencies. All the agencies have great ideas on how to do the opioid and how to take care of it, but none of them have ever gotten together. So I started a opioid task force, and we're going to be meeting on the 21st for the first time. And it's bringing in every agency there is that deals with drug addiction, law enforcement. I mean, we're just getting them all into one group so that they can kind of start dialogue and kind of work together for this, so that we can have a way of combating this. You're starting to see it would go up, 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 up. So this is the highest that we've had in quite some time.
Do you have any numbers for 22 so far?
I think we're right around 8.
Yeah.
At this point. It's not getting any better.
Can I make a suggestion, just in case I'm not at that table?
You should be.
I know, but I may not be. The addict is one person in the big picture. And we see no treatment for the families, no support for the families, no direction for the families. And I've been saying this, like, bang my head here, for at least 12 years. So if you could bring that up as chairperson, I would really appreciate that.
It is, and like I said, I mean, this has been kind of an education, and it's not really the best education to get,
Right.
but it is. It's one that we have to take care of. And being at the New York State Association of Counties, I mean, it's throughout the state. Westchester, I guess, started a program that seems to be working. So we're going to be having a meeting with them to see what else is going on. I think that's probably it. I think.
Can I go right after him?
Yes, you certainly can.
I'm from the County Youth Bureau.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes. I was supposed to be on the agenda, but
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
that's okay. It's okay. I'm glad Kevin's here. Thank you.
Oh, you guys are getting your papers today.
I'm not giving you any more, Kevin. You've had these.
Okay, no problem.
So I'm Rebecca Smith from the Portland County Health Department.
We're going down through here.
I'm the Public Health Programs Manager and the Youth Bureau Director for Portland County. And I'm here tonight to let you know that I did send out the notice for applications for youth programming. And that we are able to start it this year a lot earlier. I know that Preble has had a very vibrant youth program, and since the volunteers have moved out of the county. But I'm hoping that somebody could stand up, step up to the plate and provide some kind of programming for youth in Preble. I've attached our health education kind of flyer. That's what we do in health education, all of those programs. And we could bring those out to Preble for your residents. We do things like the bike rodeos. So we teach kids bike skills. We teach adults bike skills. We have the bike helmets to hand out if kids don't have bike helmets. We do car seat checks. I've met with Dave to set up a car seat check at the Preble Fire Department. But there are a lot of programs that we have that we could just bring out to Preble. If there was a recreation division, if there's somebody I could talk to, we could plan, even if it's not every day of the week, it could be a one day a week. We could have our agencies out there. I've developed what's called Youth Roots. It's a program that I developed with the Career Works of Cortland County. That's the place where the summer youth come out and work. We developed Youth Roots program, and it's really just picking up our agencies that are in the city of Cortland that we all need in our county and bringing them to your community. So for example, on the third Tuesday of every month, we'll be in McGraw. There's at least 12 agencies signed up to be in McGraw on the third Tuesday of every month, so that the residents of McGraw can go and find out what's available and what could be brought to Preble. So our agencies want to bring our programs out here if there was a place to go for an hour or two to set up with the kids, but that's a conversation. But we were, the New York State budget has passed. The youth development is going to get exactly what we got last year and the year before that and the year before that. So Portland County has gotten $68,686 every year to allocate to our municipalities. And our municipalities are supposed to be our main priority in this funding. So I'm asking you to apply for funding. If you have the application, you're not sure what to do with it yet, you want to sit down and have a conversation, I'm available. If you do not want to apply for funding and you want us to come out and help you get this off the ground again, I'm available. So that's why I'm here tonight, is to kind of beg you to apply for some money and ask you to, think about getting the youth program back on its feet. It probably won't be Renee did an outstanding job here with that youth program, and her husband, I don't know how many of you knew, he went from Preble every day to Cortland and back to Preble to bring the free lunches to all the kids. And it was really a nice program. But most of our municipalities I've already spoke with, and they are eager to get all together and find out how we can make, if we have a program here, how can we bring it out to Scott? How can we take it to Truxton? How can we take it out to Marathon? That kind of stuff. So
We just don't have anybody yet who has stepped forward
right,
to fill Renee's shoes.
right,
She left abruptly
yes, and
with no real explanation of why she was leaving,
yes.
but she just kind of dropped everything and
I
left.
remember the last year was just dropped. I do
Yes,
remember that,
and
yeah.
so we don't, sometimes people come forward in the community and say, because they have children or something, and they want to spearhead a youth program.
Mhm.
We don't have anybody doing that right now.
Right.
So there's really no sense in applying for the money if we don't have any way to use it.
Right,
And here it is already mid-April, and if we were going to do this, we would have somebody already working
Right.
on it. So
right, I get that. Yes, and that
Yeah.
being said too, was thanks to Chairperson Fitch, he spearheaded this, is where I could get this ask out a lot earlier, because that, you might remember in the past, not so very past, we have had to wait until August to ask you to apply for funding for the summer that's already passed.
Mm.
That has been at least 10 years, it's been like that.
Mhm.
But that's because New York State allocates us funding. We know we're getting money from OCFS, and they're not able to tell us how much they get until August, September, October.
Mm.
And then with county policies, then we have to do a resolution to accept it. And then we have to do the applications, and then we have to do the grant, the whole contract process. I was not getting contracts until January of the next year. So he opened the doors for me to get the resolution passed to accept the funding now. So that's why the applications went out this week. I could
Right.
not send them out before the resolution was
Right.
passed.
Right.
OCFS is planning on changing the fiscal year, goodness, to September or October 1st to September 30th, so that maybe next year, maybe as soon as next year, we can have a conversation and start the planning process in September, applying for the funding, and maybe get a stipend for a college student to come in and run the program or something like that. We can sit down and talk about it if you're interested in doing that in the future. But I do understand the lateness even now. I'm so excited that I'm not late, but I do understand.
Renee's work was all volunteer.
Mhm. Right.
And so, nobody has come forward to volunteer, but if we advertised that there's a little bit of stipend that goes
Right.
along with it,
Right.
maybe somebody would step forward.
Right, and that would be something we have to start next year because this year's funding, I have to say, I would be completely honest, is we would fund you for the summer program, but we would ask you not to voucher until that last quarter, just because of the way the funding goes.
Right.
OCFS.
Right.
But it's as guaranteed as the government tells us, right?
Right.
So there we go.
So I don't think there's anything we can do for this season, but,
Okay,
next season we can maybe
Okay.
actively pursue somebody
okay.
for this position.
Very good. And I will, if we do change the fiscal year, I will reach out as soon as possible so that we can start planning a better program for all of our municipalities. But in the meantime, Dave and I have just started talking about planning stuff over at the Preble, where is it? Preble Senior Center Fire Department. So, I will be around, so if there's questions from everybody, I
Okay,
can answer them. So thank you for,
thank you, Rebecca.
you're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe actually, maybe this would even be part of, the infamous shared service. To where, say, the town of Scott and town of Preble could actually, work together to hire, like a recreation director. And then, Tuesday, Thursday, they're in Scott, Monday, Wednesday, they're here, or something like that, to be able to, if that's the case,
Ideally, that would be great.
and if that's the case, then both municipalities can still apply
Add.
for both, or apply,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. One municipality could apply for both municipalities, so if you wanted to partner with the town of Homer, that's more realistic than probably the town of Scott.
Yeah.
Then one town could write the grant and say, we're partnering with Preble, which would obviously increase the funding. And this too, I don't know how many have been involved for so many years in the youth development funding, but it used to be you got $1.68 per youth. That's not the case anymore. It used to be you had enough funding for somebody to write a half a grant, really. But now you can apply for, realistically, towns and villages would get up like $1,500 to $2,000, maybe more depending on what you put in your grant. But realistically, it would be between that and like $6,000. It would not be $1.68 per youth anymore. That's just, I don't know where they ever came up with that figure, especially for a small town. But thank you very much for your time. I
Thank you for
appreciate
coming
it.
in.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Jen?
Zoning and code enforcement report for March. 3 building permits issued, 68 miles traveled, 11 building inspections, 41 hours worked, 2 fire inspections, 9 complaint follow-ups, and 22 telephone inquiries. The next planning board meeting is April 27th at 7 p.m. The next ZBA meeting is May 5th at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Historian, we have the report, and town clerk.
Fees collected for the month of March were $824. Dispersed $813 to the town of Preble and $11 to the New York State Ag and Markets.
Okay, unfinished business, LED street lighting. Jim, you want to give us a update on what you got?
Yeah, I sent some information from David Hess from National Grid to Jen, and she sent everybody an email except Dave, you got that there. So I asked him for some more information on it so the board could digest it more. And so he sent some literature that you have. And he sent email. You got that also where I can read it He sent this, April 7th. He said, Jim, I did find this from, when the program started in 2016. I hope it helps. The main concern is going to be that there are no more, HID sodium streetlights. And therefore, when there are failures, the new lights will be LED. So the sodium lights that we have, when they fail, they gotta be replaced by LED anyways.
So he's already telling us that there's gonna be, in effect now, a transition going on.
Transition, yeah, and
Okay.
most towns have already
Mhm,
converted to LED lights. So,
mhm.
yeah, and all their literature kind of points that way with the ongoing, everything is being converted to LED lights because it saves usage, wattage is less.
Now, let me
per
ask you,
lumens.
do you think that would be a good way to do this? Is wait
No,
for each light to go and then replace it?
No,
No?
because it would be helter skelter on which ones would be replaced. We wouldn't see, if they're gonna be replaced anyways, we wouldn't see the return
Mhm,
as quick, because it's a very quick return on investment.
mhm.
And I think you would notice a difference in the
And you
street
would
light, the
notice-
sodium versus the
Right,
LED,
and
that
people
one
would be
brighter.
like, yeah, it would be, people would complain probably, but, yeah, they would be aesthetically
Mhm.
different,
Right,
you know?
right.
Because LED lights is more of a white light.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
So he said to address other questions, the means in which the conversion program works is for the municipality to request the conversion and notify which wattage is to be installed. From there, National Grid to send an invoice for the conversion. Once paid, we will convert the lights to LED and change the service bill to reflect the new lights. We will handle the rebate in-house, and there would be no paperwork for the town. So it's a question of picking out the wattage and just telling them, give them the go ahead.
From what I understand, there's a range of lighting going from blue to yellow, and within that LED spectrum. And so there's a range that we can pick. You
Yeah,
can pick, the harshest blue or the softest yellow. And I would recommend going more towards the yellow side because it's easier on the eyes. It's more of the color of a candle or a fire or something rather than a computer screen.
yeah, if you can pick that out, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So they do give us a range.
Mhm.
So I would say go more towards the yellow than the blue.
Sure.
Mhm.
Is something we're gonna vote on tonight? or
Well, I don't know.
what?
We're just talking right now. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to get Mike's opinion. I think, don't you think?
Well, we can
should,
wait till Mike comes
you know,
back. There's not a rush in doing this.
Yeah, right, there's not a rush.
But, it's, but we can talk about this. You guys have any questions about this?
Then it'll give them a chance to read over, what
Mhm.
we sent,
Yeah.
what we sent you
Mhm.
to.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Something's gonna have to be done.
No, don't have to be, it's no rush.
Right. Right. But we have been getting the emails, I've been reading them,
Oh,
that you're sending out and Jen forwards them too. So we can pick this up again next month when Mike is here.
yeah.
And can you find out a little bit about that color range that they have?
Yeah, I'll,
If somebody could explain that to you,
I'll have to
so we
figure out
understand that a
more
little
about-
better.
I knew about it, but I don't have it really.
Yeah.
picked out what-
Yeah.
I don't remember getting that choice when we converted our plant to it 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And I don't remember getting a choice. So
Street lighting
it was either yeah, street lighting
might
is
be
different.
different.
Yeah, it's probably different.
Yeah.
We haven't lost any employees over it, so. So yeah. I'll
Okay.
look at that.
All right.
Yeah,
Good, and then we'll pick it up again
let's
next
pick
month.
it up next
Mhm.
month. Yeah.
Thanks for your work on this, Jim.
Okay, sure.
Okay, new business. We received something from Spectrum that we had to sign for. So I thought it was urgent, Jen thought it was urgent, and Jen and I couldn't make too much sense out of this, so we passed it on to Don. Don, could you tell us what we got?
Sure, Spectrum had filed a challenging all the special franchise assessments throughout the state. Every town, every village, every city, every municipality, apparently, that they had equipment in, they challenged the assessment because they get taxed on that. Well, when I first got it, I didn't know what the heck this stuff was either, so I called our real property tax services office and talked to Laura, who was helpful, and I called and I hooked up with Brian Fitz just a couple days ago because he's a local assessor. And one of the municipalities he assesses for is the village of Cazenovia. So their attorney, he told me, Kaz's attorney had called the state and got the scoop. And basically it's nothing that we can do anything about, really. The values are set not by our local assessors. The values are established by the state office. So it's a battle with the state. So I don't know, Jen, did you actually sign anything on that? Yeah, there was an admission of service. I think I gotta go back and check that out.
Is it more like putting us on notice that this is going on?
Yeah, I think they put every municipality that's a named respondent in it. You have to serve them with this packet of papers, but the battle's with the state.
Okay.
But also Brian Fitz told me that, so there's nothing really we could do anyway, but Brian Fitz did send me a follow-up because that's what the attorney for Cazenovia learned, that actually the whole appeal has been withdrawn.
After all that work, wow.
So whether there was some quick settlement or something, I have no idea. But he did forward me an email to that effect.
Okay, so we may never have to deal with this again for many years, maybe.
Who knows?
Okay,
I haven't seen that
right,
in a long time.
right. Okay, so it's not something we have to worry about as a town.
Our particular assessment was around 37,000, and it had actually gone down like 11% from the year before. You know, you could see what the assessed value was for all these various municipalities. Some were relatively modest, like ours. Others were the assessed values of whatever equipment and material they had there were hundreds of thousands. So it was all over the place.
Okay. Thanks for doing that background work for us, Don.
Sure.
And explaining that. And then within a day or so, we got another big box of papers that I think we had to sign for too. And that was about a house foreclosure at 1904 Preble Road. And why they were contacting us, I didn't really know. So I passed both of these on to Don at the same time. And I said, Don, can you take a look at this too? And so he did. So,
Right, and that was a motion for foreclosure, judgment of foreclosure. And it's a foreclosure of the property at 1904 Preble Road. It's all public record. I guess David Barrows owned the place. So when you do a foreclosure, you hope that your client has the first mortgage. And so that's the status, I believe, here. But when you bring that foreclosure action, in order to sell that property at the public auction, that is the end of the foreclosure process, you have to put everyone else on notice that has an interest in that property. It could be a judgment creditor, because judgments are automatically liens on any property against that person. Any real property they own in the county where the judgment's filed. The reason we were put on notice, and they're part of that list of people that have an interest in the property, is that we had a second mortgage through Toma Development that was put on in 2012. So there was a grant, a rehab loan or something of $23,000. And so to cut off any possible interest we might have in it, they had served us with the papers. And actually, this is kind of midstream in the process. So somewhere, somehow, we have been served initially, like a year or two ago. I don't know how or where those papers went to, but
Yeah.
in any event, there's nothing, the only thing we could do is if we felt that the property at the foreclosure sale is gonna bring a price greater than the balance of the first mortgage. So there would be what's called a surplus monies proceeding. There's money left over after the sale, at the foreclosure, after the first mortgage is paid off out of the proceeds of the sale. We could then say, well, hey, we've got a lien on this property.
Right.
But two things, at least. One, it's very rare that there's surplus monies out of these sales. And number two, as Jim indicated, this was called for repayment over the first.
It was
5
never
years.
money out of our pocket.
Right, that's right.
It came from Tolman Development as a block grant from the state, and federal funds that flowed from the state down to us. And they qualified for it, so that's back when people were getting their houses fixed up through the block grant. And the terms of that agreement was that they couldn't sell their house within 5 years. And that every year, 20% of this obligation would drop off. So after 5 years, it's really gone. You know, that second mortgage is gone. In fact, I've had people over the years come up to my door or call me and say, you know, I've got this form from the county clerk, you know, or real property, you know, to release the second mortgage. Can you sign this? And so I would sign it and they'd go on their way. So this is sort of residual from that program. It's nothing we have to do, but we were notified on it. Don took a look at it, explained it, and so it's just so everybody knows. And this is the house that's on the corner of Steger Road and Preble Road. It's been abandoned for a few years now. So there's nothing more we have to do with that.
So that's gonna go up for auction.
It will. And who knows, it might be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months.
Right.
It would,
And it'll be advertised.
It will.
I see, because I live close by to it, I see, you know, there are people that look at it every once in a while. And from what I understand, there are people that track down the bank and inquire about it because they want to pursue it. But it has been held up with all kinds of issues, and it's been vacant for probably 3 or 4 years now. But at some point, all these technicalities will be cleared up, and it will go on the auction block for somebody to purchase. So, in fact, that's the house that Julie Campbell used to live in. Yeah, and Bruce, you know, they lived in that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No big deal.
So, okay, so we'll move along here. Oh, we have a resignation letter. I forgot to bring the letter and I printed it out from Rick Burt. He's resigning from the planning board. So we'll have to find somebody to replace him. So we need a motion to accept his resignation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Did he say why?
No, I didn't get an explanation from him. But he's involved with a lot of things.
Yeah,
And he's been on the board for a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he's on to new things now.
yeah. it's good, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Okay, monies received, we received $1,771.89 from Northeast Transformers and $779 from USPS. At this time, I'd like to open up the meeting for public comment or questions. Anybody who has anything that they want to say? Can bring it up.
Want to mention the Preble seniors there, we're doing fine. We're meeting 4 times a month right now, and it seems to be working well. And you want to add anything that, Betty Ann, with the Preble seniors? I mean,
He was gonna come for luncheon, but he never showed up.
we got him for the 20th.
Yeah, you gotta be on the 20th.
Okay.
And I did want to ask Kevin, How much do we pay for that? Not for the mental health building right now. Do you know that off the top of your head?
I think it was dirt cheap.
Really?
I think it was under 100,000.
I got a question.
As long as it's not redistricting, I'm happy.
What'd you say? The capital reserve fund. Now, my interpretation of capital reserve, that's the improvement to make the place value of it better. Now, how can we take it out like a piece of equipment?
Because Gina said we could.
Oh, that's not capital improvement, is what I'm getting at.
Well, capital improvement, it says dash hall renovations. So we put $30,000 every year in a line item for this building. So that if we have to put a roof on it, recite it, we want to redo this whole thing, there's money accumulated in there to do that.
Yeah, that's capital reserve.
Right. And so, Jeff wanted to buy a piece of equipment, and he called Gina and asked, how can I buy this piece of equipment? What accounts can we look at? And she said, you can use the capital reserve account. So,
Legally, can you? What I can get at legally, because it's
yeah,
capital reserve is for making the improvement to make it better, be value up, the value on it.
well, you could say it's to make the roads better,
That's far fetched.
you know? Well,
Does Gina have a degree or something that she knows?
well, she's been a bookkeeper for 35
That
years,
doesn't improve,
or
that
whatever.
impress me,
Right.
but
you know.
legally is
But
what I'm getting at.
She did, she had some backup by the state. She did call the state about this too. And she got, it wasn't just her opinion.
Because you'll get, when you, the state
She had
comes
some
in and
support.
audits, you're gonna get written up for it. is
Yeah,
what
she
I'm
had,
getting at.
she had some reference on this decision, so. She was very confident in it, so.
Definition is to make it more valuable. And that depreciates every year.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we need to pay some bills, we need to pay the general fund vouchers.
Make a motion to pay general fund vouchers abstracts number 4 and number 61 to 77 totaling $6,913.10.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. Need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers abstract number 4, numbers 21 to 28 totaling $4,560.67.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Carried. We need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Meeting adjourned.
This Jerry.
You don't get another book, you're gonna bring another book.
Which book was that?
Oh, she put one in the orange